Okay, so we're back and ready for action. I pulled the melodic drone from the previous sketch over into this one for further mangling. I'm not really sure yet what exactly should be done with this, but I had some ideas. I really liked the feedback stuff we were messing with in the last sketch, and thought maybe we could give that another go. But first, I wanted to duplicate this and change the pitch. And I wanted to play with a little vocoder. Let's pull from the other layer. And then put a vocoder on this one and pull from the other layer. See what kind of madness we get. And maybe seems like we're not getting much here. Maybe I should try pitching this layer down a bit. It's kind of hard to predict what's going to happen with feedback. It's always a bit of a crapshoot at first. But always throw in some overdrive, trying to push it forward a little bit. Or rather, push it up in dynamics. Let's play with a little stereo. See if that comes through at all. Go ahead and get rid of these notes. And same over here. Overdrive is definitely overkilling. Cool, so definitely hard. Hard to predict what's going to happen between these two vocoders talking to each other. Let me just put this one over here and pull it down an octave. I'm going to put one of those over here also. like we need to do some automating on these depth and formant knobs. So we're going to increase the tempo just a bit. All right, let us randomize our automation length or loop. It definitely feels very feedback-like when one layer is not getting enough volume through, the other one also doesn't seem to work. They're definitely feeding off of each other. So we wanted to automate formant. Very cool. Let's clean that up. Now, look at a modulation and actually make this modulate to the beat. Not sure what that will sound like, but let's find out. It's kind of got an interesting rhythmic, almost percussive quality. Definitely feeling an octave shift on this one. Let's pull it in there and try painting in some octaves. Now, what is happening over here? This one is seems to be dying on us. Too much grains over here. I think I want to add a MIDI pitch. If we don't already have one, looks like we've already got one. And then let's just, for sake of ease, add another one. Whoops. And play around with the pitch and octaves of this one. We try a little noise sound on that. between the white noise and the sine wave. Let's pull this one off grid. It weirds it out a little bit. Because we have these jumps, we get a little bit more percussive sounding action between these two. Now, this 10% bandwidth definitely has a unique sound to it. I think I want to kind of modulate between that and something else. Something, I guess, the midpoint between 100% and 10%. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth. You gotta spend a lot of time fooling around, moving things around, listening, being persistent, not giving up. But there does come a time, sometimes, where I don't have the energy, and I know it will just be like too painful to try to extrapolate something interesting from a situation that just isn't going anywhere. So often I can just walk away and come back to it in an hour, 2 hours, a day, 2 days, and I'm always surprised at how I will have new ideas, fresh, interesting things will happen. I'll immediately be able to hear new things, that directions it could take it in, and I know there's ear fatigue, but there's also a psychological, I want to say, just listening fatigue. I mean, beyond the physical strenuousness of having sound going through your ears constantly, especially if you like to keep the volume up, but just, after you listen to a thing over and over again, there's almost a psychological stress of having heard the thing and you just stop, having ideas. It's an interesting something to think about. Let's also play with the octaves of this. So now we're starting to get a lot more textures popping out. I think some of these automations that I've been doing are causing some unpredictable and interesting jumps, for better or for worse. I suppose it all depends on what you're going for. Honestly, I really like to just not care about all that and just see what happens and kind of see how far I can take the automation thing before it totally sucks. There are many times where it sounded really interesting and then I ended up doing a bunch of changes that took it far off into another direction and it's not quite as interesting. And I just shoot myself for having not saved a state, a version of the project at that state. It's hard to remember to do some of those maintenance-y type things when you're in the zone. Let us animate this. Oops. To position it. Oops. And slightly off the normal grid. There we go. on to adding in a new layer. Like there's enough motion and enough interesting, odd, unpredictable things coming out of these two tonal melody-like layers that it's time to move on and try something new. Talked about wanting to experiment more with that feedback loop concept. So let's group this. This tonal group, and I want to route into, we'll call this feedback effects, and we'll make ourselves a little loop. Let's pull audio from tonal group, and I'm going to set this to send only. And put, well, actually, since it's we can pull from the group, we don't need to make a rack or anything in there to pull from. So let us just turn on our audition here. Okay, and then let me see how we want to set this up. There's so many different ways to set up feedback loops. We could also use a return track. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, let me create a return. I should have Control-Alt-T memorized by now. There's so many keyboard shortcuts to memorize, and I wish Ableton would let you customize the keyboard shortcuts. Now that would be interesting and fun. So let us go out from tonal group into our A return, and we can send the A return back to itself. So this automatically will create a feedback loop situation. Now, of course, we don't have dummy clips, so we can't automate any of the effects in the return group. So, you know, that's something to also consider. Maybe I'll pull the audio here from the A return like we've done before. And so if this goes to master, you know, we can send this back into the A return, and that will definitely make some nutty feedback. Easy to find out with a grain delay in there. So you can obviously hear the feedback happening. We don't have any feedback turned on here, so you know, so we know it's working. And we could also pull and, you know, put some of the sound from feedback effects anywhere in here that we want. And just pick a random spot, and let's pull from feedback effects. Let's say post effects. But right now we don't have anything going into feedback effects unless we push them from A, and now so I want to pull sound from tonal group. Let's do sends only for now. And we can control the amount of feeding back by moving this around or this around. We could also put a utility in here and automate the gain on that. So we'll call this group out. It's probably a better title for that. And we will pull audio from, we'll say sends only on you. And the reason why I'm doing this is so that we can, from tonal group, and I'm gonna hit the audition button. This way we can have clips here, and we can have some automation. Like we could automate this send here instead of using this one, and that way we can choose if we only want to use the a return to make some feedback stuff. We can just automate this to only come on every so often. So let's go ahead and do that. Oops, I do not want to disable that. Let's show automation. Cool. That is good enough for me. Yeah, we practically don't even need this group, but it helps at least to collect these two into one. And I feel like we had pulled some sound from here, from the feedback. Yeah. Oops. If we want to get weird with it, which I'm kind of thinking that we should, since we had this melody pretty much the last sketch, you know, this melody carried it in a major way. If we just turn this chance up here, all kinds of insane possibilities are going to come out. Let's go ahead and flip them to buy so we get minus, or at least notes below this pitch coming in. It's almost not even a melodic sound anymore. It's yeah, a bit maybe a bit loud here. I could turn that down just a bit. Cool. So let's make a new layer. And anything now that we send into the return can go through the feedback system, which I don't feel like we really spent a lot of time on. And we should get back to that at some point. Let's play with an analog. And an arpeggiator. Just gonna hit some... Sounding like almost like some video game type music. Oh, what the hell? Let's just go ahead and record that. Magic. And we will automate the snot out of this. Alright, let's play with that. And pitch shifter, always useful to have. Sometimes I wish I could just automate many things at once. Let's go low. See what happens. I do like the bendiness you get when you play with this octave knob. It's probably could stand to throw a limiter on this, now that I'm hearing it. Not a looper. Now I'm curious what the chord will sound like on this analog if we do the spectrally thing that we messed around with in a different. Sounding like a bizarre horror soundtrack at this point. Let's go down to 4 voices. I do like the sound of when these voices cut off. Let's take that down a little bit. Oops. Definitely have to animate this one. Always with the let's bring it down there. Always got to animate the rate of things. Cool. Also, cool. The more the merrier as far as all the automations are concerned. Let's pull back this reverb just a little bit. Now let's hear what this sounds like in the feedback system. Go ahead and say sins only on that. Let's try to automate that. I think that could make some interesting things happen. Just insanity is what it's starting to turn into. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So I had an idea of making a kind of feedback tool. Let's have two chains. One can create a little bit of crackle and some resonation. And let's go ahead and, well, we'll say mute that layer. And mute that layer. So we could have a gate pull from, we'll just call this feed baxer. FK. Let's pull this down, slow things down a little bit. I'm just curious what that's going to sound like. For better or for worse? I say if it doesn't sound, you know, that interesting, always throw some more effects on there. Just toss some more spices in the soup there. Worst case scenario, you just gotta remove a few things or just delete the whole thing. It's no big deal. Alright, so let's pull audio from, we'll say we're looking for the feedback layer, and then let's see, which chain do we want to pull from? We'll pull from this first one, post effects. This one we want to pull from, I think, this chain here. So let me just name these to make it easier to navigate this whole thing. Okay, so I'm going to pull this from feedback and post effects. So now we've got crackles coming through here. And I think we want to try and pull from this number one, post effects. So that way, I mean, we could probably maybe just even pull from the end of this. So maybe we don't even need this layer, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. For this idea, because we can send through the vinyl distortion. It is an effect that will take sound through it. Let's see, oh, I see. This is not letting me pull only pre-effects. Interesting. So we will pull from this one then. We'll do post-effects on this one. me pull the mix down there. I don't think we're going to hear anything. Wait, do we have this? This one is pulling from... Okay, so it's tricky. You got to think about where is the audio going to run around at. So let's try pulling from feedback 3 post mixer. No, we want post effects. Pre-effects. We can't pull from itself, so let's try to post effects. Yeah. We won't hear anything until we turn this on. Yes. Yeah, that sounds about right. And now we need to turn this on. Now we're going to be maybe... Okay, finally. And if we pull this up, yeah, we can see the crazy spikes. Feedback happen in there. And we can put on some EQs. And it's a lot of time you get feedback right in the very, very lowest of ends. Yeah, there's some feedback for you. So maybe we could pull the... we have to tweak it until we can... Alright, so it's kind of the same sounding... Ooh, that's intense. Watch your ears! We'll go ahead and map this here. We'll call this feedback out. Yeah, so obviously we need like a limiter or something. Let's just try a compressor. And ratio of infinity. We'll see if it actually works as a limiter. I guess not completely, because you can see the limiters. So maybe if we pull this down a little bit. Well, it seems like the limiter is really what we want. And let's map this note here. Okay. Interesting. Getting a lot of feedback, I think, from this here filter with this. Super zany. And let's pull up the envelope a little bit. Maybe pull the frequency down so we can... And if we throw a time, like a delay in there, it'll make more of like a classic delay effect with the feedback all the way up. And I'm going to go ahead and map that also. So basically we've created this sort of self-running feedback noisemaker. And we could also put, we could map this frequency here too. We could put effects in here as well, because this is taking from one post effects. So after any effects here, so we could throw a phaser in there. Sometimes that can be interesting in a feedback mix. So I think I now want to get a dummy clip going here and then automate some of these. Let's make this dummy clip's length kind of longer. And I think we could add more effects in here, like perhaps an auto pan will help sort of cut down the monotony a little bit. There's different things we could do. But moving these around is really helping. Zany. I mean, this almost sounds like some radiophonic workshop type of experimentation. Old tape machine type stuff. So let's go ahead and start dragging some knobs around. Hope for the best so we don't get any crashes. So now that I've had a chance to sit with these sounds, I'm definitely hearing way too much coming out of this John Carpenter-esque layer. I want to go back to that one and sometimes you just gotta listen to a thing for 30 minutes, and then once you've heard it on repeat, it just finally hits you that it is not right. Yeah, this thing turned into a bit of an R2-D2, which, you know, always brings back nostalgic memories. I usually try to avoid a lot of that kind of atypical synthy sounding madness. But sometimes you just can't help it. Sometimes you just got to go for the nostalgia points. That's all there is to it. It feels good. What can I say? Nostalgia always feels really nice, and it's relaxing. It takes stress away from life. Cool. I want to automate this. Snotomate this. Automate the snot out of it. That's what I'm trying to say. Very expressive. It's got that sculptural quality, like lots of angles, lots of odd curves, and things sort of haphazardly interacting with each other. I almost think of like a digital Kandinsky type of imagery. Now let's see what happens when we feed this into the feedback mix, which I really need to mess with. unfinished business over there in that there feedback pit. Yeah, and I need to play with this time more. Getting too many atypical delay types of sounds. I try to avoid the atypical. At least that's the theme for this sketchsploration series. Because normal is bormal. And might as well try to dare to be different. Alright, that should hopefully break up the monotony there. Alright, feedback effects, I'm looking at you. Now without this delay on, well... yeah, I'm just frequency shifter crazy right now. Wow, wasn't expecting that. So you never know when you start throwing effects in a feedback loop and messing around with their knobs, what the heck is going to happen. It can either be really cool or just insanely scary as hell. Let me put a limiter in there. It's really pushing that limiter, but this limiter is really resilient. I have had thousands of decibels from certain plugins when they break, and they just send out a crazy loud sound. And this limiter seems to hold up. It doesn't... I've had some plugin limiters just break when they get too much sound coming into them, but... And we probably won't get the crazy feedback because of the limiter. Well, we could... Doesn't seem to be happening right here or now then, so... I'll just leave that on anyway. You can always push it. Sounding just nutty. Part of me can always hear weird beats with these kinds of strange sounds. And I'm not super good at beats. I definitely need the practice, so kind of use this as an excuse. Sounding just generic as hell. And that is, I guess, one of the things about operators. It's pretty easy to get some pretty generic and boring sounding. Maybe if we just speed this up. Since we've got a slow tempo right now, we just try and get really, just really spastic with it for now. Cool. Sometimes you just need that relentless headache-inducing arpeggiation. Did I do that right? Ah, I did. I just didn't do it long enough. Let's pull this one in. Come here. You can do it. Oh, too far. Oh, hey, it is finicky right there. Definitely ungrid you. Clean it up. And if we throw an arpeggiator, let's just have some randomness going on with this one. Get those flams in there. Now it's not even really a kick. I think I want to move this one up to, let's just say, E3. Trying to build this thing out so that it's a bit more, there we go, reusable down the road. We could probably mess around with this and get, you know, a kick to also occur. I know with automation you can get, you know, snares and hi-hats all in just from one operator, which it's a pain in the butt for sure. To code that is not my idea of a good time. I do know what we need also is note probability, which always helps. Let's go into our nifty rack section and bust that out. And this is just kind of working randomly now. So 0 is no probability added. And 100 is all, basically all off. 100% probable that it's not gonna happen. Always a bit rough in the beginning when trying to sculpt drum sounds. It's almost like more of a bass line. really push the snot out of the bass with a bit of a high pass pushed with the res pushed up. If we drop a drum bus, obviously things are going to get really intense. Let's go ahead and automate that, of course. Let's go ahead and automate reality. I do love that probability gate. It is really nice for making, you know, a loop turn into something a lot less obvious and loopy, especially when you're listening to something over and over and over again, trying to finish it up. Of course, you gotta commit, you gotta mix down at some point. I just route MIDI out of the probability gate rack into another track and then hit record, and then you can just record down some of that. And then I mute the probability gate rack and use the MIDI clip to drive the, we'll have to try that sometime. It's a lot easier to show than talk about. Kick and spastic rhythm. And if we automate and modulate this note probability gate, we'll start to get a lot more randomness in there. All about embracing the random. Sometimes life is just boring, and this is a good way to make things a little more interesting. Okay, so gotta get a snare in there. I usually like to make the snares, you know, C sharp or D, depending on if you're gonna avoid black notes. I honestly say, you know, use them all. Don't avoid any notes. All notes are good. So, gotta get a snare in there. Let's see. We need some grid. Looks like the grid was off. Okay, so how about we zoom in a little bit? Oh, looks like too much of a quantize there. There we go. Just jumping around here, but I think we can throw in a random on this spastic. Okay, back to the snare, for reals. The spastic rhythm is it's in your face. I guess this filter is really large and in charge. sound-wise. So maybe we can throw in a quantize the tremolo and get ourselves a little bit of a. Could also play with. Yeah, where is the squeaky coming from? It's probably this here. This pitch envelope. Also click the rate. Sometimes interesting things can happen when we change the rate to high. It's a little less tweaky, a little more better. Oh, really in your face. Throws it in the stereo field like. Also just turn it down straight up. All right. Seems like a good time to play with a bit of a hi-hat sound in there. At some point, I'm going to need to break down and bring in a couple drum samples to play with. You know, as much as I love pushing myself to try and design from the ground up percussion sounds with Operator, and with enough effects, and you can get some really interesting percussion sounds, obviously, as you may have heard some of the past sketches. But it's good to switch it up and try some new. Torturous. All right. Let me get that flam in there. Yeah, we are going to automate you. Got those triplets sounding nice and weird, dynamic. All right, let's go ahead and give ourselves more runway there with this one. I think I want to keep playing around with this. Should probably add one of these to the kick as well. Also, I'm hearing some sidechain compression on some of these other weird tonal layers. So maybe we will add some sidechain. What happens when we put this in the... oh, forgot to turn off my... Should automate this. Maybe a little bit too much sci-fi Let's put a sidechain compressor in here from the beat. Sirac, we'll have to call this the beat. I'm gonna push the ratio up, pull it down, take this a little bit. Also in here, do we want in the feedback effects? I mean, it couldn't hurt to try, and if it sucks, we can always dial it back or delete the... Now, the spastic rhythm thing is almost a bit too out of control. And a lot of it has to do, I think, with the fact that we put the screen delay here and it's now stereo and it really sticks out. Ah, the old flanger can be so cliche, but sometimes I am really forgetting to turn this off. Oh, and we're actually recording now? How long have we been recording? Go ahead and delete all that. We don't need any of that. Maybe we'll pull the amount down so we can just have it be a little more steady and rely on the envelope. Yeah, I like that. Electricity right there. Where is it going? Sometimes when I'm kind of at the end of my rope energy-wise, I'm just throwing the obvious. This is definitely a cheap trick of mine. Throw in some obvious sine wave, 2-note chord. We'll take it a little farther, I guess. Obvious, 2-note, chord. We could automate on some of these. That just gave me the idea of turning on the speakers to have things only turn on and off every now and then. So we'll just keep it off and then just have you turn on in like spurts. Wait, everything is got a bit more of a place. Same with you. And same with you. This definitely helps space things out so that all the sounds aren't just firing off all at once. And I wanted to automate this end, or let's go ahead and we'll just modulate it. We're getting close to done here, I suppose. Automate this. Imagine that. Me automating the rate of a tremolo, auto pan, whatever. But tell I'm running out of steam when I start to just fumble over words and cool. I can also tell we're almost done. It's like, well, when I can see the CPU spiking, it's probably a sign. And let's go ahead and automate this. There we go. So every time it goes to 100, no sounds come through. Cool. Well, you know, yet another bizarre and weird sketch. Well, I hope you enjoyed as much as I did making it. My brain is fried, officially. So I think I am going to call it on this one. But, you know, until the next one, enjoy. Hope you all have a chance to play around with it and remix it and mess with some feedback loops of your own. In fact, that reminds me, I wanted to save this into our audio effects section. So we've got a feedbacker, tonal generator. There we go. Save for later. just feel bad leaving this operator in the state that it's in. It just sounds so uninspired, so tired, and a lot like my brain right now.